My name is Devin.MPG, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about pro-choice. Okay. Pro-choice refers to the right of women to control her own body, especially with decisions involving abortion. Now, many believe that pro-choice means pro-abortion, and this is false. It simply means that women can decide what happens to their bodies. This does not mean that everyone is forced to go through with the procedure, so those who do not agree with it don't have to associate with it. Despite its legalization in 1973 by the infamous court ruling known as Roe v. Wade, abortion is still an extremely controversial and almost taboo area of law. However, why would anyone want to take away a decision that has the potential to benefit women immensely? My main claim is that abortion is a positive option and beneficial procedure for women who seek it because it prevents instances of traumatic pregnancies, it's economical, and it's a safe procedure. My first claim is that abortion prevents traumatic pregnancies. Rape is a very serious and traumatic issue that can negatively affect its victim in a number of ways. Not only is there an obvious physical consequence, the pregnancy that results from rape, but there is also dire psychological effects, both of which can be healed if abortion is made available. In 2004, Jane of the Feminist Majority Foundation and Leadership Program reported that an 11-year-old girl was brought to a San Lorenzo hospital because she had been raped, and as a result, she had been pregnant. The only benefit she received was the protection of her identity, which is very little compared to the physical and mental hindrances that were presented to this girl, who, yes, may have been physically capable of bearing a child, but at such a young age, it's obvious that she was far from being psychologically prepared for pregnancy and childbirth. Due to an Argentinian penal code, aborting the child was not allowed. In this case, the government has put stress on the life of an 11-year-old girl as if she was a middle-aged woman. A law that is trying to protect the rights of an unborn child has not only ruined the life of another one, but has also failed to take into account the physical repercussions that come with adolescent pregnancies, such as the higher possibility of premature birth, hemorrhages, low-weight babies, and higher risks of health complications following childbirth in adolescence. This is a violation of human rights because it imposes on a rape victim an identity that she did not choose, says Lucrecia Arundela from the Municipal Office of Social Promotion. The government is considering this child as an empty recipient that has to expect what she has been imposed in her. So how does this relate to us? The National Abortion Federation reports that each year 1 million American teenagers become pregnant, and 78% of these pregnancies are unintended. The majority of the youngest women in this group are under the age of 13 and report having had sex forced on them. These young women often have little understanding of their reproductive bodies and therefore are uninformed about ways to prevent pregnancies. In the U.S., laws involving abortion have become very gray due to an exponential increase in the controversy. If this continues, abortion will become more and more difficult to obtain, which will eventually lead our citizens down the same path that was unlawfully chosen for an 11-year-old girl. For this reason, abortion is a choice that can not only prevent traumatic pregnancies, but also give innocent and unprepared women a second chance. My second claim is abortion is economical. As I said earlier, the majority of unplanned pregnancies occur in young women. Due to their youth, it is safe to assume that the majority of these women are not married and are not financially stable to raise a child on their own. So in this instance, abortion would prevent lifelong economic stress for an unprepared single mother or even a couple. Abortion itself is also a relatively inexpensive procedure because the majority of medical insurance plans currently cover its services. So despite distorted ideas that deem the abortion industry as a conniving one with the goal to take advantage of desperate women, D.A. Grimes in Gynecology says abortion providers maintain lower than average fees for their services than do physicians in other specialties. He continued that legal abortion in 1991 only cost half of what it did in the 1970s. The cost of denying abortion would outnumber the cost of allowing it. Not only is there a social cost associated with women who are forced to bear children they cannot adequately support, but also being denied the option of abortion is costly in more ways than one. In the year 2000, the Guttmacher Institute reported in Issues in Brief that it would be more expensive to receive a back alley abortion, which would in turn postpone the procedure due to the fact that it would be more difficult to obtain larger quantities of money for the woman. If resorting to back alley abortions isn't bad enough, with economic stress, women are more likely to attempt self-induced abortions, which are very dangerous and often lead to complications or even death. My third claim is that abortion is a safe preventative procedure. As stated by the National Abortion Federation, surgical abortion is one of the safest types of medical procedures, and complications from having a first trimester abortion are considerably less frequent and less serious than those associated with giving birth. Because complications related to giving birth are now few and far between, abortion is therefore a safe procedure in comparison. Anti-abortion activists frequently claim that having an abortion increases the risk of breast cancer and endangers future childbearing, or those who abort a pregnancy without complications will have future difficulties in conceiving or carrying a pregnancy, develop ectopic pregnancies, which are pregnancies outside of the uterus, deliver stillborn babies, or even become sterile. However, in 2003, a panel of experts from the National Cancer Institute reported that studies have clearly established that induced abortion is not associated with an increased risk of breast cancer. And regarding future complications related to abortion, Medical Director of Planned Parenthood and Associate Professor of Massachusetts Medical School, Maureen Paul, stated in 1999 that the vacuum procedure associated with abortion in the first trimester poses virtually no risk to future reproductive health. Every child should be a wanted child, not one of neglect. So why frown upon abortion? We must remember that it is only an option, not a requirement. And for those who don't agree with it, they don't need to do it. However, it's morally incorrect to allow people to make decisions on behalf of others' personal lives. So I hope you will agree with me that abortion is a positive option and beneficial procedure for women who seek it because it prevents instances of traumatic pregnancies, it's economical, and it's safe. Thank you.
Pardon me. All right, you ID'd the topic and you ask a question, and basically you have a claim that follows up, but the claim has multiple parts in it, and then you kind of make the preview sound like it's a bunch of not secondary claims, but dependent clauses in the claim. And so the phrasing is a little bit awkward, but we know generally where you're going, and we know generally what the structure is, so that part is good. Your internal signposting is very clear as you get to each of those points, so I think you're solid there. The citation of information is pretty good. You do get involved in some arguments, though, that are potentially an issue because they are value-based in nature. The whole thing about the 11-year-old girl, when you're sticking to the issues of her health or the question of whether or not there's a danger to her, I think you're fine. But later on, there's some comparisons being made to whether or not kids should be, brought into this world and they're welcome and wanted, and that's implying some value arguments that are a little bit iffy for this kind of presentation that you're working on right now. The risks argument are okay. It does seem at one point that the third point is really primarily about rebutting arguments that haven't been made yet. There's a lot of reading in the presentation, and I think you need to talk to the audience a little bit more. And the very last claim that you make introduces a value issue, and it brings up the inconsistency that the opponent is likely going to want to point out, which is also a value issue, and that is that you're saying people shouldn't be making choices for others, and that's what the opponents of abortion are saying, that somebody is making a life and death choice for some other person every time an abortion takes place. So I think you want to be careful about phrasing it in that direction and stick with the claims that you presented earlier. All right, thank you.